हेलो माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, कैसे हैं आप लोग। उम्मीद करती हूँ आप सब अच्छे होंगे। चैप्टर नंबर 35, रूडीज यूथ, फ्रॉम द बुक थीफ, रिटन बाय मार्कस ज़्यूज़ैक. In the end, she had to give it to him. He knew how to perform. A portrait of Rudy Steiner, July 1941. Strings of mud clench his face. His tie is a pendulum, long dead in his clock. His lemon lamplit hair is disheveled, and he wears a sad, absurd smile. He stood a few meters from the step and spoke with great conviction, great joy. Alice is Simin, sheesh, he announced. All is shit. In the first half of 1941, while Liesel went about the business of concealing Max Winterberg, stealing newspapers, and telling of mayors' wives, Rudy was enduring a new life of his own at the Hitler Youth. Since early February, he had been returning from the meetings in a considerably worse state than he had left. On many of those return trips, Tommy Muller was by his side in the same condition. The trouble had three elements to it: a triple tired problem. Tommy Muller's ears, Franz Düscher, the irate Hitler Youth leader, Rudy's inability to stay out of things. If only Tommy Mullers hadn't gone missing for 7 years on one of the coldest days in Munich history, 6 years earlier, his ear infections and nerve damage were still contorting the marching patterns at the Hitler Youth, which I can assure you was not a positive thing. At first, the downward slide of momentum was gradual, but as the months progressed, Tommy was consistently gathering the ire of the Hitler Youth leaders, especially when it came to the marching. Remember Hitler's birthday the previous year. For some time, the ear infections has been getting worse. They had reached the point where Tommy had genuine problems hearing. He could not make out the commands that were shouted at the group as they marched in line. It didn't matter if it was in the hall or outside in the snow or the mud or the slits of rain. The goal was always to have everyone stop at the same time. One click, they were told. That's all the Führer wants to hear. Everyone united, everyone together as one. Then Tommy, it was his left ear. I think that was the most troublesome of the two. And when the bitter cry of halt with the wet the ears of everybody else. Tommy marched comically and obviously on. He could transform a marching line into a dog's breakfast in the blink of an eye. On one particular Saturday at the beginning of July, just after 3:30, and a litany of Tommy-inspired failed marching attempts, Franz Deutscher, the ultimate name for the ultimate teenage Nazi, was completely fed up. Muller do a fay. His thick blonde hair massaged his head and his words manipulated Tommy's face. You ape, what's wrong with you? Tommy slouched fearfully back, but his left cheek still managed to twitch in a manic, cheerful contortion. He appeared not only to be laughing with a triumphant smirk, but accepting the bucketing with glee. And Franz Deutscher wasn't having any of it. His pale eyes cooked him. Well, he asked, what can you say for yourself? Tommy's twitch only increased in both speed and depth. Are you mocking me? Hell, twitched Tommy, in a desperate attempt to buy some approval, but he did not make it to the Hitler part. That was when Rudy stepped forward. He faced Franz Deutscher, looking up at him. He is got a problem, sir. I can see that. With his ears, Rudy finished. He can't. Right, that's it. Deutscher rubbed his hands together. Both of you, 6 laps on the grounds. They obeyed, but not fast enough. Schnell. His voice chased them. When the 6 laps were completed, they were given some drills of the run, drop down, get up, get down, again variety. And after 15 very long minutes, they were ordered to the ground for what should have been the last time. Rudy looked down. A wrapped circle of mud grinned up at him. What might you be looking at? It seemed to ask down. Fran's order. Rudy naturally jumped over it and dropped to his stomach. Up Franz smiled. One step back. They did it down. The message was clear, and this time Rudy accepted it. He dived at the mud and held his breath. And at that moment, lying ear so to sodden earth, the drill ended. Villain Dank, main Heron, Franz Ducher politely said, Many thanks, my gentleman. Rudy climbed to his knees, did some gardening in his ear, and looked across at Tommy. Tommy closed his eyes and he twitched. When they returned to Himmel Estate that day, Liesel was playing hopscotch with some of the younger kids, still in her BDM uniform. From the corner of her eye, she saw the two melancholic figures walking towards her. One of them called out. They met on the front step of the Steeners' concrete shoebox of a house, and Rudy told her all about the day's episode. After 10 minutes, Liesel sat down. After 11 minutes, Tommy was sitting next to her. Said, It's all my fault, but Rudy waved him away somewhere between sentence and smile. The chopping a mud streak in half with his finger. It's my. Tommy tried again, but this time Rudy broke the sentence completely and pointed at him. Tommy, please. There was a peculiar look of contentment on Rudy's face. Liesel had never seen someone too miserable yet, so wholeheartedly alive, just to sit there and twitch or something, and he continued with the story. Page nahi palat raha, sorry. He paced. He wrestled his tie. The words were flung at her, landing somewhere on the concrete step. That future, he summed up buoyantly. He got us. Ha, Tommy. Tommy nodded, twitched, and spoke, not necessarily in that order. It was because of me. Tommy, what did I say? When? Now just keep quiet, sure, Rudy. When Tommy walked forlornly home a short while later, Rudy tried what appeared to be a masterful new tactic. Pity. On the step, he pursued the mud that had dried as a crusty sheet on his uniform, then looked Liesel hopelessly in the face. What about it, Somensch? What about what? Liesel responded in the usual fashion. Circle. She laughed and she walked the short distance home. A disconcerting mixture of mud and pity was one thing, but kissing Rudy Steener was something entirely different. Smiling sadly on the step, he called out, rummaging a hand through his hair. One day, he warned her. One day, Liesel. In the basement, just over 2 years later, Liesel ached sometimes to go next door and see him, even if she was writing in the early hours of morning. She also realized it was most likely those sudden days at the Hitler Youth that had fed his and subsequently her own desire for crime. After all, despite the usual bouts of rain, summer was beginning to arrive properly. The Clar apples should have been ripening. There was more steering to be done. यहाँ पे होता है हमारा चैप्टर नंबर 35 फिनिश रूडीज यूथ. मिलेंगे हम नेक्स्ट चैप्टर में विद चैप्टर नंबर 36 द लूजर्स. और मेरे चैनल को आप लोग लाइक शेयर और सब्सक्राइब ज़रूर से कीजिएगा. थैंक यू माय फ्रेंड्स. बाय. फ्रॉम द बुक थीफ रिटन बाय मार्कस यूजैक. बाय फॉर नाउ.